All right, guys, I've been asked a couple times, how are my batteries doing? So I thought this is what I'm going to do. I just left Dan and Brenda's place in Port Alberni, and I'm heading now towards Tofino. So when I was at Dan's place, I plugged into the garage and I got the batteries topped up. I've been traveling a little bit, but oh, where are we here? So, sorry, it's just connecting here. So you can see it's at 99% right now, and the voltage is basically 13.6 volts. Right now I'm drawing 1.4 amps. Obviously I draw more, I'm going to be drawing more than that because right now the furnace is not on. I'm using 12 volts right now for my fridge, but it's running on propane, but you still need 12 volts for the electronics part of it. So I'm going to test these batteries on a normal usage for me, which means, yes, I do use the 120 volts like the inverter for a cup of coffee in the morning, and that actually draws, and you'll see it, about 135 amps off those batteries. It's for a short time, maybe a minute and a half, but it still draws 135 amps. I'm going to use it for the lights, for my TV, when I charge my laptop, 120 volts on the laptop. So I'm just going to go my normal day-by-day usage. Now, also, I want to make sure the solar is off. Not that we get, anybody that's in BC knows, or you know, right now, Oregon or Washington, you guys know, this time of the year, you're not going to get solar anyways. But just for this test, I shut the breakers off to the solar panels, and I also shut the DC charger off on my truck. So strictly batteries. I'm not going to be running anything else. And I don't even know if I told you guys this. So you know your 7-pin plug coming off your vehicle? There is a trickle charge on it. Just on the inside of where my 7-pin plug gets attached here on the camper, just on the inside, there's one of those little resettable breakers that 12-volt power goes to before it goes to the rest of the camper. I disconnected that because to me it was going to be useless anyway, so I didn't need that around. Look at this. Explain to me why somebody would cut a tree like this and weaken it so the next big windstorm, and look at the tree now, it's pretty well dead. Anybody that doesn't see that and puts their tent or something out right out there in a windstorm, absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, as you can see, people for some reason feel the need to damage trees. I don't know, it makes them feel like a tough guy maybe. Anyways, enough of that. So I just want you to understand how this is going to go down. So I have a movie on, so this is 12 volt. I'm not playing it right now because I don't know if there's going to be a copyright or something like that. But I have my furnace on. It's set at 22 degrees Celsius, which is 72. It's saying it's 21.9 degrees here. So I'm using power, and I have my 12 volt fan on. So I'm just letting you know, and no, I don't have all these lights on all the time, obviously. This is just for recording. I'll do my best at telling you what I have running. I'm not gonna bullshit or nothing like this. So I usually just keep my hood fan light on, and then the rest all off, because obviously I don't like a whole lot of lights. When you work 1,800 feet underground in a salt mine for 25 years, you like darkness. So I just usually keep just the one light on here when I'm up, and of course nothing when I'm sleeping. So I'm just going to keep you guys aware of my usage, and then I will let you know what my batteries are doing. So let me see. Okay, so if you see right here, this is coming from the solar panels. As you see, that breaker's down. So the solar panels come into this breaker, and out of the MPPT is that guy right there, and that breaker is tripped. So my solar is not hooked up, which I already explained. If you're understanding how it works out here in the West, we don't have sun anyways right now. Again, if you haven't seen my the other videos, 640 amp hours of lithium, and in a truck camper. So we're going to keep track of this. This will be, so I started this about 2 p.m. is when I actually disconnected. I made sure they're 100%. So at about 2 p.m. I disconnected. So at 2 p.m., I'll do a check on the batteries. I'll post it. Okay guys, ready to do a 24-hour update on the batteries. So it's 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. and let me pull up the screen here for the batteries. I'm not going to explain everything again. I've already explained it, but I'm just going to show you in 24 hours. So I'm down to 93% right now because of the lights and everything. I'm pulling about 31 watts, which is a 2.36 amps on the 12 volts. And when I say 12 volts, it's right there. You can see it. It's actually 13.3 right now. But so far in 24 hours, I've used 670 amp hours of battery. And so it's saying right now I can still go 10 days on what I'm using right now. But I've already told you this before. I'm just running lights right now. Last night, well, I had the stereo on and I was outside sitting along the river and I had some music playing and then I watched a movie. So, and then the furnace was on all night. So right now, it's sitting at 14 degrees, 57 Fahrenheit. And it got down to 3 degrees. Oh boy, 39. I don't know. You guys gonna have to figure this stuff out. I can't. There's too much shit going on in my brain to be able to calculate every time. I think it's 39 Fahrenheit is 4 degrees Celsius. It was cool last night. So the furnace came on, and I set it to 21, 70 degrees, 21. Anyways. So to keep it warm, not so much for the temperature. I'd rather sleep when it's cooler, but it's for the moisture. It's humid outside, and for me to keep the humidity down inside the camper, I have to keep the heat up. But anyways, so long story short, 24 hours, I've used 70 amp hours of battery, and we're just going to keep going to see how long I can go. So it's been 48 hours. I should have showed you this earlier, but anyways, you can see there it's a 4th. So I started this on the 2nd, and it is, can you see the time on the top there or not? It's right there, but I don't know whether you're going to make that out or something. So it's about, it's 20 after 2. So it's been 48 hours, and I'm just out on some logging area here. And I'm going to go for a little walk later on, but you can see where I am. But anyways, let's turn this thing on here. I think you guys can make that out. So I'm at 87%, 13.2 volts. So of course it just does us as a, like it does a calculation, but it doesn't know, because if I plug in my coffee maker, it's going to say you got 30 minutes left. So, but that's where we are right now, 48 hours, and I'm still at 87% in my batteries. If I turn this guy on right here, what does that voltage say we are? 13.3. Oh yeah, of course it's an LED, so it's going to flip and flop all over the place. I've been doing driving, but like I said, the DC charger's off. And you can tell it's off because if I actually go back here, yeah, so there's no DC charger on my list because there's no 12 volts on it, so it doesn't see it, and it also does not see my MPPT for the solar because it's disconnected. So all you see is up here. That's that main control box in the corner where everything gets plugged into, and the shunt. And that's if you click on, if you click on the shunt, that's where it goes there to tell you what's being drawn. So that's it. So like I said, I'm using the furnace. I'm using lights, obviously, the TV. So 2 days, 48 hours, and still lots of battery left. All right, guys, we got the 72-hour update on the batteries. Let me bring up the calendar. So there's Sunday the 5th, and it's 2:15 p.m. So again, the reason why I'm doing 2 p.m. is that's when I actually unplugged from Dan's garage. So 72 hours later, and you can hear that the furnace is on. Because I haven't really traveled. If you've been watching, you'll see the video come out. I haven't really traveled too much, so I am watching a movie, 12 volt TV, and the fan, the circulating fan up there in the bed area is on. So anyways, I haven't even looked today myself. Let's just pull her up and see what we got going on here. Again, you can only see the shunt and the servo in the corner there. That's that little brain box, which does nothing except take all the information from the other units and put it in an HDMI cable that will come up to a display here when I do install it. So let me turn the shunt on. So we'll look at it together here, because I have no idea myself. There we are. We're at 80%. Oh, it just went down to 79. 13.23 volts. I'm pulling 7 amps right now off it. It said I can still go 2 days and 15 hours on that draw. So 79%. Now, don't forget, that's, which I haven't even taken down to 50%. So lithium can go, like, you can drain lithium. You can go past 50%, you can go down to 30%, 20%, 10%. So I have no idea what this will say when I'm at 50%, what my voltage is. I'm more interested in the voltage than I am on the percent up there. So anyways, 13.23, and that's 72 hours of no solar, no generator, and no DC-DC charger. Bought and installed these batteries because I want to live like this and not have to start the generator every single day. So 72 hours later, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Morning guys, this is not an update between the 72 and 96 hour mark on the battery test because it's morning, and remember we started at 2 p.m. but my morning is the most used because I have my coffee pot here. But what I noticed this morning is the humidity was fairly high in here, so I have these two dehumidifiers, one there and there, and basically they draw 40 watts. So I'm going to have these guys on here. I also have my fan. And then I have lights going on here, but I'm also going to make a pot of coffee and just show you what kind of draw is on the batteries. It's actually surprising how much current is being used because you're only dealing with 12 volts. So anyways, I'm going to push that down and start this thing here. And let me get my glasses on. Okay, as you can see right here, this is what we're dealing with right now. 74% left in batteries, and I'm drawing 12 amps. And that's basically, I haven't even ran this thing yet. Well, just a little light there, but you got the dehumidifiers, fan, lights, and the loss on the inverter itself. So the inverter draws about 3.5 amps sitting there idle, not doing nothing, just sitting there. You're going to have losses. So anyways, let me start this thing up. So I just started that up. Now all it's doing is pumping the water into the heating element. So you can see there we're sitting at 12 amps. At least I hope you can see that. But just watch what happens when it hits the heating cycle. And there we go. 142 amps. 1800 watts. Obviously, I'm not running this thing that much, but I just thought I'd show you what kind of a power draw something like that takes. So when people always ask me, you know, what size of battery, it all depends on what your usage is. If you don't plan, if your coffee is going to be made on your stove every day, then you're not going to be pulling, you know, 130 amps for 2 or 3 minutes 3 times a day, because you know, I know I enjoy 2 cups. Sometimes I even have 3 cups. So. Yeah, so like I said, this afternoon we'll do the test, but I am going to be running these 2 dehumidifiers all day. Yeah, so I'll be talking at the very end of this episode on battery management. How much is your DOD and stuff like that. So, but we'll talk about more of that at the end. So she's still heating up there. You still see we're drawing. Oh, there, she just shut off now. But anyways, I'll see you in about another 8 hours for our next update. So we are now at our 96 hour in this battery test. It is 134, 135, half an hour either direction, who cares. As you can tell, it's still raining out there, and it's now the 4th day in a row that's been raining. So even if I left those solar panels on or the charger controller on, I'll guarantee you in one day, if I brought in 15 watts, I'd be surprised, but it's off for the test anyways. All right, so let's just take a look at what we got here. So it's saying right now 66% battery left, but like I said, that just gives me a rough idea. I want to know that. So it's 13.04 volts. As you can see right now, I'm drawing 12 amps, and it's saying I got 21 hours yet to go if I leave it just the way it is. But I'm definitely going to have more than that because I've had the inverter on all day because of my 2 dehumidifiers. So they've been running non-stop since this morning. When I gave you that quick update, and it went from 81%. There's my little humidistat right there. It's saying 67 now, and it was at 81% humidity. And I looked, and each one of them's got about that much water in the bottom of it. So, anyways, that's it for the update on the batteries. We'll see you in another 24 hours on the batteries. This is going to be the last day of the test, and I'll tell you why in a second. But anyways, so day 5, it's actually 3:30, so I went past the 2 o'clock mark by an hour and a half. It doesn't matter. And so 120 hours, and I am sitting, it says 53%. I'm sitting at 13.10 volts. So it's saying I used 410 amp hours, and I have 640 amp hours of battery, and it's saying 53%. So basically I could still go half yet. Now, and this fan's never shut off all day, and I have my tube underneath there with a fan in it. That's, if you don't know, that's for the moisture. That's kind of my invention I put there to keep the moisture out from underneath the mattress. But why am I stopping the test? Well, A, I don't need to go any further. I never thought I would last this long, and I can still go. So basically I can go almost 10 days. And I'm telling you, I made coffee in the morning, 3 cups this morning at 135 amps. I charged my laptop. I've watched TV. It's been, well, you know that, it's been pouring rain. Well, maybe you don't know that, but the last spot I was in the mountains there for 3 days, and it never stopped raining every single day. So I've been watching TV or the TV's been on from 2 o'clock on, because when you're in here, I like background noise anyways. So yeah, I've been using power, and those batteries obviously are no issues there. Why am I stopping the test? Because I'm in Uselit, which is south of Tofino, and there is absolutely nothing out here boondocking, unless I go right back to where I was last night out in the mountains. I'm in town here, and I want to explore a little bit around this town. There's no boondocking in this town. So there's campgrounds, and the only sites they have open, there's nobody at the office. So it's check-in online. But the only sites they got are powered sites. That's the only ones they keep open during the year. So I'm not paying $50 a night to not be plugged in. So that's why I'm not doing the test anymore, because I'm plugging in, and if I'm going to plug in, I'm going to use power. So I hope that helps you guys know what's going on anyways. So I'm basically half of what, yeah, so it's it's 410 amp hours of used on 640 amp hours of batteries. So without any issues, 3 more days, and I bet you I'd still have power after 3 more days. So, but this is day 5. So I hope that helps you guys when you're asking me how my batteries are doing. They're doing fantastic. So other than that, guys, I think that's it for the battery test. Okay guys, like I said, I was just editing the video that you're watching, and I wanted to do a little talk at the very end. There's some things I noticed that I mentioned that or I talked about, and I actually didn't do a very good job of explaining it. One of the first things I noticed, because it was early on in the video, was shutting the solar panels off. So the solar panels come down into the cabinet down here. So when you shut your solar panels off, disconnect the solar panels from your charge controller before you actually turn the power off on the charge controller. So I have that breaker, and you would have saw me lift up the lid, and it's got a little blue handle on it. I disconnect that off, and then I shut the breaker off that takes the 12 volts up onto the MPPT. So I forgot to mention that part to you. So make sure you shut the solar panels off first, then shut the power off going up to the MPPT, if that makes sense. But I don't know, I'm sure you can still hear it. It's still raining, so I haven't even bothered putting my solar panels back on. So I wanted to talk about the batteries, mainly about the parameters on the batteries, or any batteries. So you'll get a booklet from them, and because I'm going to read it right off the booklet. So on these batteries here, and they're screen power batteries, they're just Chinese batteries, but I don't know anybody else that make the cells other than China. So it says the charge voltage, I don't even know if that's what I want there. There we are. That's what I want. So the controller settings, basically your charger. And it could also be your solar charge controller. Let me explain some about batteries, or most things out there. If something's rated for a certain amount, if you use it to that limitation every single time, you're going to get less life out of it. I guess the easiest example I can give you is, you have a Corvette, and let's say it's got 550 horse. Well, if you decide to use that 550 horse every time you drove that car, it's not going to last long. Does that make sense? Same thing about your batteries. So my batteries say they're 640 amp hours. If I was to use that 640 amps every single day to zero and charge it back up again, I'm going to take out, so I mentioned that also before, and I just want to make sure, DOD, depth of discharge, how much you actually take your batteries down to. So for an example, if I used 80%, so if I took my batteries down to 80% every single day, so there's only 20% remaining, I get approximately 3,000 cycles to charge. Like, so cycle is discharge and then charge, that's a cycle. I will get approximately 8 years, 3,000 cycles at 365 cycles per year, 8 years out of these batteries. 70% discharge, so I have 30% remaining. I'll have 4,000 cycles, which is 11 years, and 50%, so if I only take these down to 50% and charge them back up again, I'll get 5,000 cycles, 14 years. And you guys can do your own research, look it up. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one. And if you take it down to 100%, so right down to zero until there's nothing left in the batteries, you're only going to get between 2 to 3 years out of these batteries. But like I said, look it up yourself. Don't just rely on me. There's research out there. So it's saying my charge voltage on these batteries is 14.6 volts, and that's when I'm supposed to shut off the power going to the batteries. Stop the charge, in other words. So there is a BMS in there, battery management system, that are built into these batteries. They automatically will disconnect from your charge at 14.8 volts. So they're like, nope, we're done, we're shutting off. The under voltage, low voltage disconnect. So when these batteries disconnect for voltage, when you're drawing power off of them, it's going to disconnect at 10.8 volts. But again, like I said, if I wanted to max out, so charge it all the time, right to 14.6 volts, and do that every day, again, I'm going to take slightly bit of life out of these batteries. So how my Victron works is, I set up my charger to disconnect at 13.8 volts. So I'm leaving 1 volt of headroom. I'm leaving a volt of headroom in those batteries, just to be nice to my batteries. But so on my Victron, when it's shut off, so I'm watching, and I did this a couple times to make sure, at 13.8, the charge it shut off. And at that point, I physically went on to the parameters with the Victron with that shunt and put in 100%. So when it sees 13.8 volts, it says 100%, even though it's not. It could go higher because you can physically, you can sync it. I didn't want it to go right to the very max of what the book says. It's like everything else. If you want to go to the max every time you use something, you are going to take life out of it. Whether it's how high you charge it or how much you discharge it. You're going to take life out of your batteries. And these things are way too much money. And and anybody that knows me, I like to take care of my stuff. I like to, I'm not going to max it out. If I can just give her a little bit of a break and say thank you for today, that's all I'm going to do. So at 13.8 volts, I told that Victron to tell me that's 100%. So when I showed you the example and it says it's like at 65% left or whatever, that's just a rough estimate because I actually gave it different numbers. Again, I want to see the voltage. That's the most important thing when you look at your batteries, your voltage. Basically a 12 volt battery, if it goes below 12 volts, it's a dead battery. I don't care if it's 12.8 volts. You have a 12.8 volt battery in your vehicle to start it, and it ain't going to start that motor. Or it's going to be barely starting it. So you got to remember that. So if you use a lead acid deep cycle battery at 12 volts, you're done. You're going to hurt that battery. So I guess I'm not doing a very good job explaining this. The most important thing for me is the battery voltage. Let's put it that way. So when I don't care what the percentage says left. If I got 50% left, if I'm out somewhere and I've got no charge because of the solar, and I'm not driving for, let's say, 10 days. As soon as I see that battery voltage comes down to 12 volts, and that's on lithium, don't forget. I'm not talking about the lead acid, lithium. It actually can go way lower than that. When I see 12 volts, I will take my generator and charge them back up again to 13.8 volts. It'll probably take 4 to 5 hours, but that's fine. But that's the parameters I want to work with. Does that make sense, guys? I'm not going to go off the book and say, oh yeah, it can go down to 12.8 and then it'll show. No, I'm going to go down to 12 volts. I want to take care of these guys. Like I said, they're not cheap. And when you invest this kind in the batteries and the system, and these guys are taking me out to explore and be able to, I'm going to take care of it, right? Like my engine. It says I got 40% left oil life on there. When I look up there, it's just a calculation, of course. At 40%, she's getting an oil change. I'm not waiting until it says, oh, you got 2% left in your battery life. No, or sorry, 2% left in your oil life. No, she's going in to get an oil change. I take care of my stuff. Yes, where I take this, people are saying, well, holy crap, JJ, you're not taking it. This is what I wanted to do. And that's why I'm bringing you guys along with me. So you guys can be there with me and explore with me. So I hope this helps, guys. I realize it's another long one. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert on batteries. I'm an electrician. I work with high voltage stuff. But I know, I grew up on a farm, worked on 5 farms, worked on my own stuff. So it's not like I'm ignorant to it all. So And don't get me wrong, I'm not going into any of this I'm not here to teach you guys. I've had just subs asking me, hey, tell us about your batteries and how they're doing. But if you want to go online. Don't take my word for it. Go online and do your own research. I'm not putting this on as a teaching class, and I'm not, like I've already said before, YouTube's quite the interesting spot. You put yourself out there and you're going to have people just wanting to jump in and attack, because that's just the way it goes on YouTube or anywhere in life, to be honest. And if I can help out or whatever, just not when I say help out, I'm not wiring anybody's camper, and I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. But if you have any questions about what I have and want me to explain something a little bit more, I'm more than happy to. That'll be the end of this battery test, and I hope you enjoyed it. I actually had fun making it. It was kind of interesting. I myself wanted to see how the batteries did. I never really went more than 2 days before I ran my truck with a DC-DC charger. And of course in the summertime when I had solar, I had they were charged by 10 o'clock in the morning, but I myself wanted to do this test myself, so I appreciate it. So guys, as usual, be good, be kind, be careful, and we're going to talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.